Here we go. This is nice actually. Advanced stuff quite early. Well, not advanced stuff, but you know, it's quite. We're getting there. Okay, so what we're going to reproduce here for the weight belts is, I suppose, a customization. So you've had a quick look at attributes and variations and stuff, and what it's probably a discussion actually that or a thought process you need to have because I'm not in your world anymore. What I would do is for weight belts, for example, if you made weight belts and then made like a set standard template that you then applied a customization to. If that set template was say in black or white, then I'd possibly use those colors for attributes. If the weight belt came in £1 or £2, and you made loads of them to later sell on, I'd maybe make £1 or £2 an attribute, but the colours of it and stuff and bits and pieces of that we'd add on. And I think you touched on it when you looked at the when you went out and looked for a plugin, which is good. There's actually a plugin that already exists, and I've put it on it. It's here. It's called TM Extra Product Options, and I'll show you that. That's currently working now. If we go to the bridle, on the bridle here, I've got a contrast stitching option here, which they can see is £10 more, and they can have a look there, select, and there's just a bit of help text on it. Now, the reason I think that's probably better is you can set a standard bridle or a standard weight vest. So if somebody says, I want a weight vest for 20 quid or whatever, you just knock a weight vest out, you have one there, and you send it to them. And this way of doing it, the additional bits, it's not putting them off, but what you're not doing is you're not having somebody spending half an hour fiddling with colours and then never actually buying anything. And people will do that. So if somebody says, no, to go with my rig has got green piping on, I need green piping on the bridle, so I'll put a tick in the box there, and then I'll choose the colour that I want, to have as the stitching, and it adds the options there. So I would do it that way, rather than give them options that are obvious initially. Because like I say, if you give them too much choice, can you imagine that they'll just spend their day fiddling with colours and never actually buy anything. Now you add that, so the weight vest could be a simple product, it could be a variable product, it's entirely up to you. I would say if you were doing, I suppose if it was completely customizable, then you might think about doing it all with the options that I've just shown you. You might, but I would always set a basic weight vest. So if somebody just goes to this page and clicks add to basket, they don't have to pick an option. They get a black weight vest with £2 weight vests or whatever. Yeah, we'll do that. Right, so I think somebody's come to my door. Maybe not, carry on. Right, so when you've got your product ready, I wouldn't put that there either. A picture there is all you need, and obviously a gallery. If you go into TM Extra Product Options, these are the bits you get where you can put the thing, but the important bit is here. It's called the builder. This is where you build up the different things. So I would add a section for each thing you're doing, and before you add the color picker or whatever you're going to do, I'd add a checkbox. So I'd add a checkbox to the system. We'll now edit the checkbox. User doesn't have to fill this in. Okay. And then you basically fill in all the bits and pieces here. Yeah. So for example, here's the label options, label type, label. Here's the label. What do you want the label to be? Let's call this stitching. Label color, just bits and pieces. Subtitle color. There's loads of stuff you can select here. General options required, no. Text before price, text after price. As you can see, there's lots of different things. The important bit is to give it a name and stuff and do what you're going to do there. Yeah. So this is the general stuff about this. When we go into the bottom of general options, this is quite weird because it's on a fairly small thing. If we go into here, these are going to be the, I suppose, the options of the checkbox. And I would always do this. Add contrast stitching, or maybe if I call this binding color, that might be a better binding color. Let's say, for example, binding color is a different binding color is £5. Description here: change binding. Yeah. So what I've basically done is I've added a checkbox. This is the option for the checkbox, binding color, and this is the price. If I click on update on that, if I save the draft of that, and go into weight belts, when I refresh this, it should have, here's the section called stitching. I could have a binding color, put a tick in the box there, and you'll see it adds an option there. Yeah, so that's added binding color. That's not over because we need to know what color the person wants. So if I go back into the extra options, in this section here, if I add another one, another box, and in here I'm going to add the color picker. And when you've added the color picker, it's fairly important when you do this. You can leave all of this blank, but there's a conditional logic here, and I would go into conditional logic, and I would basically turn it on, so only show it when the stitching checkbox is binding color. When somebody's put a tick in the box for binding color, that's when it would fire. Oh, I published it. Force of habit. Yeah, I'll change it back to draft. And if I go in and refresh this, it should show as I've done it. So we still have stitching, binding color. When I put a tick in the box, I should get the color picker come up for them to pick a color. Okay, so that's adding that. Yeah, and I think that's probably what you need to, I suppose that's the information you need now to decide how you're going to configure the weight belt, as far as what is an option. So I want it black, I want it white. And what is a customization? I suppose if it's additional faff for you, or potentially you have to make it from scratch, I'd have a customization. If you think, well, all of them are either black or white, then you have a variable product, a black and white one. We could have that conversation. It's probably best if you have that conversation with yourself or Marianne, because I'm not sure what stock you have and how often you make this kind of stuff. And you know, I'll show you the other bit. So I know you put some other stuff. I'll just show you one other thing. There's an upload field here, so you could add, if somebody, you can add a, let me do it properly. Let's get rid of that. Let's add another section. And if we do, if I do a checkbox, and in the checkbox, I'm going to call the checkbox logo for no other reason. That's all I can think of. Yeah, sorry, I came off that. So logo, general options, scroll to the bottom of that, add your own logo or embroidery or whatever. And then on here I'd probably put something about the fact that you know, some logos are not suitable. Yeah, so maybe a cautionary, maybe a cautionary tale there, and say that's that's a tenner, for example. So if I update that in the logo here, I'll add another one, and I'll put an upload field in here. I'll edit that, and I suspect when I go into conditional logic, you'll see the same thing again. Yes, section. Well, I've missed the. I haven't called it something, so that's why that's why it's showing as section there, because I didn't call it. Oh no, hang on. There you go. Logo. If logo is. If logo checkbox is not empty. That looked a bit odd. Logo checkbox. Okay, let's have a look at that. Okay, so there you go. So when we've seen it, they can add a logo to it, and I would obviously always put bits and pieces here to explain it to them. Yeah, I mean you could put that in one section, so it's customizations or whatever, or you could spread it out like that. It's entirely up to you. Yeah, so that's really it in a nutshell. It's TM extra product options here. This is what we're using. If you have a drama with it, come back to me and we could meet up maybe tomorrow. Well, but it's probably the wrong thing to say in a video, isn't it? Because obviously this would be different. Yeah. If you need any extra, give me a shout and I'll pop over. Okay, go.